Hey there, it's Tuesday, which means it's time for, yes, another in real life video. This is probably the last one that we'll do in the calendar year of 2023, but nonetheless, hopefully you have had or will have, if you're watching these as they're coming out, a lovely holiday, right? It was just Christmas yesterday, and hopefully you had a good time. Regardless of whatever you celebrate, there's all sorts, takes all kinds. Hopefully you enjoyed yourself, and hopefully you will enjoy yourself if you got something coming up. Lord knows I do. Still got New Year's, and my birthday is on the 30th. Huh? How about that? Anyway, more so, this is sort of not quite a year in review situation. I still want to do one kind of like that. Sort of look back at the year as it pertains more so to myself, more so to the channel as well. I do want to do something like that, just on a lighter scale, nothing too buck wild, just kind of chatting, just kind of talking. But this is more so about video games, the games industry as a whole, right? This was quite the wild year, right? As the title, I'm sure, will allude to in some fashion. I never think of the title quite ahead of time, but as I'm sure it will have alluded to, this was one heck of a year to be playing games, and also one heck of a year to be making them. This year, if you're playing games, if you're buying games, playing them through any means necessary or whatever, holy cow, it seemed as if there was something for everyone. There was just nonstop bangers. There was amazing stuff everywhere, right? Personally, of course, I'm such a sucker for Starfield. I had someone write in that I'm probably the target demographic, and I think that's such a fantastic way to put it, because even when they have controversial or even like big misses, I still really like what they do. But even aside from that, off the channel, I've really, really loved Alan Wake 2, and we'll talk about that more in a future video, like I said, more so pertaining to myself. But yeah, there was just so many amazing games this year, so many that I didn't even get to touch. I don't think I got to play a single indie game this year, because I was just so swamped with other stuff. New AAAs coming out, backlog, of course. We wrapped up the Skyrim playthrough, so we're getting too much into this as it pertains to me. But nonetheless, fantastic games all around. There were both received by audiences and by critics alike, right? Just amazing stuff. People have been saying that, this is one for the books, right? There's always those years where people say, oh, this is one of the better years of games. This is joining those annals, right? Regardless of whether or not you think this is at the top of those lists, it's up to you. Right? Everyone's going to have their own personal preferences, but this year has been absolutely fantastic. Also this year, we've had some major consolidations, right? We've had smaller ones, right? I want to say it was this year that Bungie was acquired by Sony. I can't quite remember. Definitely the biggest one by far this year that seemed to be in the news cycle forever was, of course, Activision Blizzard King getting bought out by Microsoft, and I'm assuming we'll see the effects of that next year in 2024. I'm guessing stuff from that acquisition will show up on Game Pass and whatnot. Yeah, that's probably absolutely beyond a shadow of a doubt the biggest one, and I'm probably not going to be the last one that we see. Probably not even from Microsoft, but they'll probably hold off for a bit, I would think, But yeah, it really shows we're just at that state of consolidation. We talked about this before this year. And unfortunately, as well, this brings us to the main topic of the video. This year has been jam-packed with layoffs as well. There's been, I'm hesitant to call it, well, I mean, in many ways it is a crisis, right? It is a crisis. There's so much stuff going on. It's such a wild amount of numbers and everything. I took notes in a notebook. Let's see here. Yeah, 2023, games industry layoffs, an estimated 6,000 to 10,000 people laid off. I think most recent numbers I had checked said that it was about 10,000 people lost their jobs in the game industry in some fashion or another, right? Not just in immediate games development, but also in sort of exterior areas as well. I'm sure I don't think are even counted necessarily in this, right? But we'll get into some of this here. Goodness. Let's see. Let me adjust my microphone a bit. Make room for this notebook, huh? Yeah. So, sort of some of the bigger ones, right, were Amazon games, which they themselves, Amazon games, had about 100, from what I had seen. But across all of Amazon, like we had said, so many other groups like publishing, right, also included in that. Cranks it up to a whopping 715 total, at least accounted for. Epic Games, right? They have their own Epic Games store. They've got Fortnite going. Also, in total, across everything, 830 estimated, I think, people laid off from their work, just out of here, just completely gone. Absolutely buck wild. I remember not too long ago, they had recently, speaking of mergers and acquisitions and consolidations and whatnot, right? They had acquired Bandcamp, among other things. Now, Bandcamp, gutted, absolutely gone. They're, as far as I know, they're out of there. Everybody got gutted from that. Absolutely horrible. Probably one of the more egregious examples. Embracer Group, at a whopping 954 people. Holy cow. Not the highest, that I believe we've seen on the list, so far, but, or in total, I would say, not on my list, yeah, definitely the highest. But, I believe there's a few others that, if you consolidate all their layoffs in total, they would rank up higher. But Embracer Group, probably one of the more egregious, because similar to Microsoft just recently, they've been embracing so many other development studios, right? And it is probably the worst example I can think of in recent memory, certainly in my lifetime, of, at least in games, right, of them just grossly mismanaging and just fucking everything up for everyone that they acquired. Their eyes were a lot bigger than their mouths, I would say, or they bit off way more than they could chew, right? They effectively, during the pandemic, right? This is particular to Embracer Group, it seems, but I am undoubtedly sure applies to a vast many others, right? In games and beyond. During that period, many of these large companies were able to get some sort of assistance, right? Although some of them got varying degrees of monetary assistance, right? They got just big bucks coming in order for them to stay afloat. I remember we saw quite a bit of that in the news about airline industries, which needed, I don't know, some kind of assistance to get out of their situation. Wow. Very cool that we're helping these enormous corporations, but, regular folks, not so much, right? But what can you do? Embracer Group got some such assistance. Now also, on top of that, during the pandemic, when it was at its height, when folks were on lockdown, right? I would define that as at its height, as far as, I don't know, societal impact. We saw in video games, and across many assets or facets of video games, I would say, we saw a boom, right? We saw loads of people having spare time, right? Loads of extra time on everyone's hands, because they were working from home. They either weren't working or they got laid off or something like that. For whatever reason, folks just had a lot more time, right? Thus, video games were kind of near the top of the list, or at the top of the list, for folks devoting excess time to, right? We saw so much more, I don't know, consumer engagement with video games. A lot of people were buying games, putting time into games. Metrics were going up. It was amazing. Now, some places saw this and they thought, wow, this is cool. We better not plan to always have this, right? We're going to have to expect that after all this is over and done, when we begin to return to some notion of normalcy, these high numbers will not be sustained, right? This is a temporary boost to what we have going on. Certainly, I saw it myself. That was around the time this YouTube channel blew up, right? It's when a whole lot of subs came in. We were hitting it big with the shorts. It was just absolutely wild. That said, we still have had, this year, like I said at the beginning, not to get too much into as it pertains to myself and the channel, this has been the best year so far. But regardless, it definitely marked a sort of turning point for the channel where we had massive influx all of a sudden of just eyes on the channel, right? Folks watching, folks interacting, whatnot, right? Well, same holds true for video games industry, right? Loads more people spending money on video games because they're stuck at home playing games. Why not? Well, groups like the Embracer Group, many folks, many of these larger corporations did not plan for all of that to go away. They instead, like I said, it was just gross mismanagement. They thought, well, we're just always going to have this money going on. We're always going to have these numbers. Why would the numbers go down, right? We will be saved by these numbers just continually rising and going up and up and up. And thus led to, executive class within these companies fucking everybody else over under them. Thus, here come the layoffs. Here comes Embracer Group with, like I said, 954 in total layoffs just this year, included among them, right? I even took down some of these. Beamdog. We're playing right now Baldur's Gate 2 Enhanced Edition. Beamdog, responsible for that Enhanced Edition. Some of the better parts and some of the not so great parts. But Beamdog, hit with layoffs. Volition, one that I was really bummed about. They did Saints Row, Red Faction. Sure, maybe the new Saints Row, not that great. But did they deserve to get absolutely gutted the way that they were? From the sounds of it, I believe almost the entirety of Volition, they're gone, right? Thanks, Embracer. Gearbox. Also, they do a lot of publishing. They do a bunch of stuff, probably most well known for Borderlands, Borderlands 4, I'm sure, just around the corner. They were embraced by Embracer Group. And what a cold embrace it was, because they were also hit by layoffs. Thank you, Embracer Group. Crystal Dynamics, also similarly, another fun, storied sort of group. Sure, they put out something that wasn't too great. The Marvel's Avengers game or whatever. Fantastic actual storyline, I thought. The little single player part of it. It was the online, more so, that I wasn't too keen on. And of course, what would you expect? It's not really their specialty. But the single player portion of it, it was decent fun, I thought. But nonetheless, they were hit by layoffs as well. Thank you, Embracer Group. And that's just a few, right? These are just ones that more so pertain to me and the channel. There's countless others. If you want to look up Embracer Group layoffs or just video game layoffs this year in total, you'll find more. Speaking of more, why not let's read off a few more, right? Holy shit, it's really horrible. Others that do pertain to myself and or the channel. Versus Evil, hit by layoffs this year, 2023. Holy hell. Versus Evil, just very recently in the news. I think it was the 22nd, I want to say. They were in the news for being hit by layoffs. Absolutely hellish time to get news about being laid off. The 22nd of December. What the fuck? Regardless, Versus Evil, they were helping in the publishing of Pillars of Eternity 1. So hey, there's what a hellish situation. Niantic, big in the news, right? You're probably familiar with Niantic. They got hit with 230 people laid off. Did Pokemon Go and all of the sort of Pokemon Go derivative games. There was like a bazillion of them. Hit with a massive bunch of layoffs. Paradox Interactive hit with 36. Paradox Interactive, if you're familiar, stuff like Crusader Kings are sort of fun sim-like strategy games. Very enjoyable. Hit with layoffs. Harebrained Schemes. We're planning to play a trilogy of games, at least, made by Harebrained Schemes. They have done the Shadowrun trilogy, the contemporary Shadowrun trilogy. Returns, Dragonfall, and Hong Kong. They have been pretty much completely gutted, right? Harebrained Schemes completely out there. Some amazing CRPGs in the Shadowrun games. They also made, oh my gosh, I can't remember. I didn't play it, but it was that recent mech game. They made that as well. And then recently, this year, they put out Little Lamplighters League or something like that. I forget the exact name. And that wasn't too hot, right? Especially in a year of so many bangers. You kind of get left behind, as it were. But hey, that was enough for Embracer Group, or no, not in this case. Not Embracer Group in this case. But that was enough to do them in. Loads of layoffs. Holy hell. What a nightmare. For Axis, if you like XCOM or the recent Midnight Suns, well, they got hit with layoffs, 30 of them. I believe even the director of Midnight Suns and XCOM is also gone. They left of their own accord to, I presume, hopefully try and stave off some of their the people working under them, try and stave off any bad stuff coming to them. But, you know, you can only do so much, especially when you're sort of at that mid-level, right, where you're not, you're a creative director, you're not exactly, you know, an exec or whatever. Also, Bungie recently massively blown up in the news. They do Destiny 2. They're planning to have the marathon situation, and whatever comes after Destiny, they had to do delays. They completely got rid of so much of their community team. They got rid of development. They even got rid of one of their more esteemed and beloved composers, I believe, that a lot of people were talking about. Like, this is absolutely absurd and ridiculous that you're doing this. But they did it, right? They did it. And beyond, like I said, just the purview of game development itself, like we had said, there were many others. Unity at the top of the list. They got over 1,000 people out over at Unity, you know, the game engine Unity, used by many. They were also in the news this year for having sort of nightmare business decisions on the sort of coming through the pipeline, but so many people hated it and protested it. They got it out of there. I believe none other than the infamous, wasn't it John Riccatello was heading Unity right now? Infamous in that he also kind of ran Electronic Arts into some muddied waters, so to speak. Also, Twitch got hit with layoffs on their back end. Amazon Publishing hit with layoffs on their back end. Humble Bundle, their Humble Games division, hit with layoffs. Waypoint Vice, I love their podcast. They're back, though, as Remap on their own. But even in games press and media, a lot of people hit by layoffs, right? Really, really horrible. Such a horrible, gross mismanagement, like we had said, of all this. And in the last video, we also talked about even more nightmare stuff. If you're working on games, you're getting your stuff leaked out. You're getting your ass hacked as well. People sending out ransoms for your personal information, shit like that. What a fresh hell, right? People hacking out and leaking out stuff that you've been working on. You know, you want to get it out at a certain point in time. You want to plan everything very carefully because it's been literal years worth of work. And then it just kind of comes out like that. Or someone hacks you and has all that data and they're trying to sell it off and it gets out by way of that. Also, just nightmare stuff. But I do think we're at a point, before we get too involved in thinking oh my gosh, doom and gloom. There is the question in the back of folks' minds that could this be the end of video games, right? Could this be another enormous video games crash, that, you hear storied whispers about that happened many decades ago, right? But I think it's too big at this point. You know, I think it's way too big at this point to fall in such a way. You'll have situations like this where you get mass layoffs, in spite of having such a fantastic year, you know, such great critical reception. I play Fortnite, I play Fortnite Zero Build in the Lego mode, and recently they'd had the OG situation where there's never been more people playing Fortnite than at that time. They hit record peak highs. And of course, just like a month or two prior, they got all those layoffs. What a hell. What a nightmare. But it's not all bad. I wrote down even one little bit of better good news. Games Workshop. Of course, it is important to sort of value the companies and stuff that are kind of treating their people right in this era where it seems like so many are treating their people wrong. Games Workshop of Warhammer fame, 40K or otherwise, recently gave all of their employees, I believe, a 2.5 thousand pound bonus, right? Which is pretty wild and kind of a flex, I guess, right? In light of all the hellish news. But it didn't even occur to me that they were maybe doing that well this year. Right? Regardless, hey, Rogue Trader is out there. Definitely interested in Rogue Trader, Warhammer 40K Rogue Trader. Sounds like a good one. Definitely on our list. But yeah, kind of a hellish year. I feel like it would be wrong to close out the year only saying like, oh wow, what a great year for games, when also it's been kind of a nightmare, right? It's been pretty damn horrible for anyone working in games. Even if you have had a good year, right? Like we had said, if you had had a successful year critically or just loads of people playing your game that you're working on, that's no guarantee that you're going to keep your head above water, right? As we had seen. Good Lord, sorry, I hit my desk there. But it's no guarantee that you're safe. It's pretty bad. It's pretty hellish. Hopefully going forward, it's better. I'm not sure. Of course, we've had more and more consolidation. I think the Embracer Group situation is such a good warning for and against sort of what could go wrong when you consolidate, because imagine, right now, Microsoft is kind of on top of things as far as money. They have a whole bunch of different ways in which they're bringing in cash. If one end of something or the other is a little bit lacking, they can always shore it up with money from elsewhere, right? But what happens when that ain't the case, right? What happens when things are falling short? You have to wonder. You have to worry. You hope that being acquired by such a large company affords you some degree of safety, but similarly, the bigger they are, the harder they're going to fall, right? You can stay up, you can keep yourself stable for a bit longer, but if it's coming, it's going to be pretty bad, right? Which, hey, for now, it seems all right, at least for Microsoft. That said, we've seen weird stuff going on with Sony, wherein, like we said, with the Insomniac hack, a lot of folks talking about how odd it is that Sony doesn't have better sort of like cybersecurity for their development studios, Sony corporate. That is pretty wild. That is pretty weird that they aren't able to protect these people who are their assets effectively. I don't know. It's a little worrisome. And you wonder about who else, what other groups are maybe being a little negligent. Maybe this will be a kick in the butt. I don't know. Probably not. Right? Probably not. Probably the only kick in the butt is when something happens to them, right? That'll be what does it. Anyway, that ought to do it for this video. Sort of just taking a look back at some of the worst stuff of the year, frankly, because we haven't given much air to it, at least on this channel. And I didn't want to end the year just being like, oh yeah, what a great year for games. And to be sure, like I said, if you are playing games, it has been a fantastic year. There's just been so many amazing games. There's been something for everybody, like I said. Across all genres, it feels there's been something good to sink your teeth into. But if you're making them, kind of rough. All right. Well, when next we do another one of these, we'll probably talk about sort of the more officious year in review. We'll do something like that. As I had said, expect more videos to be kind of running late and whatnot because it's just a busy time of year for me, just in general. Most of December and a little bit of January, at least half of January usually. Because like I said, New Year's, I got a birthday on the 30th, stuff like that. Still meeting up with friends and family at a smaller scale. Oh, speaking of which, if you want to see, I always go out of town every year. I mention it in videos and stuff. On Instagram, I put up a whole bunch of pictures of, I think, 10, because that's the cap that you can do per post. Put up a whole bunch of sort of the trip that we did to go see friends and family at my old hometown. Just a little bit of nice stuff, right? All right. I think that ought to do it for now. Let me think. Yeah, I think that ought to do it for now. All right. Until next time, please take care of each other.